All right. Well, it gives me an immense pleasure to see Delia here. She and I go back, I don't know, 15 years or something. I don't know.
Something
I lost
like
count.
that. Yeah.
And so what are you talking about, dear?
We're talking about grief at the holidays.
Important topic. I kind of find that it's also quite essential because today is so I'm going to say a couple of words about that. So today is the Veterans Day. And of course, it's not we think of it as a holiday because we want to honor those who serve, but of course, it's also not an easy holiday because it's not an easy topic since a lot of the vets do have a lot of problems, and it is in a way a celebration of often someone else's suffering in a sense, right? And so I think it's very appropriate that we pick this topic today, and I do want to acknowledge that today is the day. So with that, Dylan, take us to the topic.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me, everybody. I'm going to share my screen here. I'm a palliative care doctor, integrative palliative care doctor, and I really appreciate being invited to this wonderful group. Okay, I'm going to share. Can you guys see it? Yep, great. Okay, so the first thing to say about grief in general, holidays or any other time, is that whatever's happening for you, it's okay. So we sometimes have expectations about how it's going to go, that it will be hard in the beginning and then get easier over time in a straight line. And while grief can get easier over time, it's often not in a straight line. So there are days and times that are better and days and times that are worse, and that's perfectly fine. And I think the other thing to think about is that sometimes at the holidays, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be a certain way, to be joyous, to make experiences for other people that are happy. And it's okay if you don't want to do that. It's okay if it's not exactly as you wished it would be. It's okay if you don't feel the holiday spirit. All of that stuff is okay. So this is an important concept for grief, but for life also, which is this, that our feelings often have a thought behind them, and we may not be aware of the thought, but the feelings can drive our behavior. So this concept is really important for managing how we feel. So when we have a feeling, oh, we're really angry about something, or we're really sad about something, or we're feeling hopeless about something, and maybe we act in a certain way, we cry, or we withdraw, or we snap at somebody, almost always there is a thought behind that feeling that we often don't recognize. So for example, oh, I'm feeling sort of blue and down and, awful, and my behavior maybe is that I withdraw from family and friends. The thought behind that might be something like, terrible things always happen to me. And the reason it's important to pay attention to what that thought is that if it's not a helpful, positive thought for us, there's something we can do about that. And we all tend to have scripts like that show up over and over and over again in our life. We have different ones, but they may be things like, nothing ever works out for me, or people don't care about me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable enough, or people should do it my way. So thoughts that are kind of hidden, but affect how we feel and affect what we do. And once we shine the light on those thoughts, we can do a whole lot of good at getting rid of the ones that don't serve us. So here's an example. The 3 C's are kind of a trick for catching ourselves with those thoughts that don't serve us. So the idea is that we catch the thought, we check it, like, is this a helpful thought? Do we like this thought? And then if we don't think it's helpful, then we change it. So for example, a thought that one might have, maybe particularly around the holidays, if grief is a part of your experience, is, I'll never be happy again. Or everything about the holidays this year is going to be terrible. So if we have that thought, we want to think these 2 questions. Is it true and is it helpful? So when we have a thought, we want to ask ourselves, is it true and is it helpful? So I'll never be happy again. Everything about the holidays this year will be terrible. So we're going to ask ourselves, is that true? And is it helpful? So I'll never be happy again. Is that likely to be true? No, right? That's unlikely to be true. And is it helpful to us when we're in an experience, which the holiday times, it just is, for us to get stuck in that idea of I will never be happy again? Is that helpful to us in terms of our well-being, our oxidative stress on our body, our anxiety and depression, our ability to sleep, our energy, our connections with other people? It is absolutely not helpful. How about everything about the holidays this year will be terrible? Is that true? No. Will it be hard? Sure. But everything about the holidays be terrible this year? No, that's probably not true. And is it helpful? Certainly it's not helpful. And so when we check these kind of hidden, unhelpful thoughts and we say, you know what, that is not true or not helpful, we replace it with a different thought on purpose. And when you first practice this, it feels forced and dumb, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And even if while you're doing it, you think it doesn't work, it still works. So it's okay if you force yourself to do this and you think it's kind of dumb, it actually still helps. So let's take the first one. I'll never be happy again. We've decided it's not true. It's not helpful. So we might say to ourselves something like, this is hard, but I'm strong and I have great support. So is it true that this is hard? Yes. Is it helpful to think about the fact that you're strong and you have great support? Yes, actually, that's helpful. So everything about the holidays will be terrible this year. We've decided we don't think that's true. It's certainly not helpful. How about instead, the holidays are going to be kind of hard this year, but I'll keep my eyes open for the bright spots. So it acknowledges, yeah, it's going to be hard. We're not saying it's not going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but I'll keep my eyes open for the bright spots is so very different than everything's going to be terrible no matter what. So we're going to catch ourselves with these hidden, unhelpful thoughts, check, do we think it's true? Do we think it's helpful? And then change that thought on purpose. In writing, if you can make yourself do it, is even more powerful. Speaking it is great, but even just replacing it in your mind, that's okay too. So I really highly recommend you practice this. This is really, of course, not just for holiday time and not just for grief. This is for all of us all the time to help us uncover our unhelpful, untrue thoughts and replace them with ones that are more positive and productive for us. So this is my sweet baby dog. The next question, when we're dealing with hard things, all hard things, including grief at the holidays, is how full is your cup? Meaning your emotional cup, your physical cup, your spiritual cup. Some people say your gas tank, because if we're empty, if we're depleted, hard things are harder. And if you're experiencing grief at the holiday time, that's hard. And so it will be harder if your cup is empty. So we want to think about two things when we think about how to fill up our cup so that we can do hard things, so that the hard things aren't quite as hard. And there's really two parts to this equation. One is what empties your cup. So the bottom of this picture are the things that empty your cup. What depletes you? And then the top is what can you put into the cup that will fill up your cup? Because the equation for it being empty are both of those things, right? Maybe something is emptying it and not enough is filling it. So when we're trying to make it better, we want to address both sides. So here's an example, and this is an exercise I really recommend that you actually do yourself. Draw yourself a little cup. The top is what fills it. The bottom is what empties it. And here's an example of what that might look like. So what are the things that might fill your cup? Cooking, doing yoga, listening to music, taking a walk, having a gratitude ritual of some sort where you think about the things for which you're grateful, reading, meditating, spending time with your family, spending time with your pets, spending time outside. There are all kinds of things that could fill your cup. And I recommend if you do this exercise that you do not just the things you're currently doing that fill your cup, but the things you could do that you know would fill your cup. Like, well, I used to do Tai Chi and that was really great. I haven't done it in a long time. Put Tai Chi in there. I've always wanted to learn to crochet. Put that in there. So anything that you can think of that fills up your cup, put that on the top. And then look at the bottom part of the things that drain or empty your cup. So what might those be? Too much TV, worrying, that's a big one. Eating things that aren't good for you, isolating from people and being alone too much. Although for some people, being alone fills their cup. So it's not about the thing. No one can say what's the thing that fills or empties your cup. Work, for example, for some people, work empties their cup. For some people, it fills their cup. So what you're really trying to figure out for yourself is what fills you up and what empties you. And try to find as many things on the bottom as you can of what is emptying your cup. Now, some of those will be unchangeable. And that's just how it is. Some of those will be unchangeable. So those aren't the ones we're going to focus on. But some of them will be changeable, right? So if you're eating junk food, worrying a lot, and going to bed too late, those things are actually changeable. So I suggest that you do this actual exercise. And then once you fill it up as much as you can, top and bottom, with things that fill your cup and empty your cup, that you circle maybe 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top that you could change. So 2 things on the bottom that empty your cup that you could on purpose do less of. And then 2 things on the top that you could do a little bit more of or start doing. And that's the equation for starting to fill up your cup. And when your cup is full, hard things like holidays are easier. That's the idea. Filling up your cup makes hard things easier. This is my most favorite slide, and I show it all the time when I speak anywhere because it's the whole course in mindfulness, really, which is look at the difference between the person and the dog. The person has what in their mind? Blah, 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 junk, right? Things they have to do, things they're worried about, things that happened, excuse me, things that could happen, problems. They have all kinds of junk in their mind. And look, though, at what the dog has. The dog is not empty. It doesn't have an empty mind. The dog is just in the moment that it is in. It's just in the moment that it is in. That is an advice for us that is one of the most powerful things that we can do, is to be in the moment that we're in, which means not how it used to be or how it could have been, not worries about what might it be in the future, but just the literal moment that we're in right now. So if we're cooking, right now what we're doing is we're cooking. If we're outside watching the grandkids, we're outside watching the grandkids. So that's not to say bad things haven't happened or there aren't things to worry about. Sure, there are. But as much as we can focus on the literal life that we're living in the moment, what we're doing, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're smelling, what we're tasting, the less our distress is present. And so we can imagine that this dog is much less distressed than the person. And we can, who the heck knows what's in a dog's mind, but we can imagine that the dog is not thinking, what if the person stops feeding me? Right? They're not creating negative things that haven't happened yet. They're just being in the moment that they're living. So we should be like the dog. And then I'm going to end the way we started, which is compassion for us. So the idea of self-compassion is that we are often so compassionate to other people and so much less compassionate to ourselves. So think of how we speak to ourselves sometimes. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. You're so stupid. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at you. Oh my gosh. And we almost never speak to people that we love that way. Our best friend, think about your best friend and what you would say to him or her. How would you speak to that friend about something if they made a mistake, if they were crying, if they weren't perky on a certain day because they were grieving, if they were struggling? How would you speak to that person? Literally imagine that. Someone you care about, how would you speak to that person? And then take those words and turn them around and speak those words to yourself. And try to notice if you say unkind things to yourself in your head, that's a time to stop. Literally think, okay, person that I love, my best friend, what would I say to him or her? And then literally say those words back to yourself. It becomes a practice to notice when we're unkind to ourselves and then turn it around and intentionally treat ourselves as if we were someone that we love, because ideally, we are someone that we love. All right, that is my advice for how to get through tough times, grief times at the holidays. And feel free to take a picture of this if you want. Feel free to reach out to me if I can answer a question for you, if you want to talk about any of the things that we just talked about here, or if I can be of support to you in any way. And I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you guys for letting me share. And I'm going to stay with you for the meditation experience, if that's okay.
Thank you, Delia. I think there are going to be some questions for you. I do see that there was a couple of comments. So
Okay.
One was just fantastic exercise, and there was also, can we get a copy of this? So,
Sure. I did send it to you guys, actually. So if you want to send it out to your list.
Yep.
And someone said we should all be more like dogs, and I completely agree with that sentiment.
We can practice that. That's what we're going to do next when we're ready. So, okay, so there's a question about somebody else's grief. Do you see it?
Yeah. So thoughts about how to help someone else who's in grief. It's a great question. The first advice is to not run away. We are often so distressed by other people's distress and we don't know what to do. And so we accidentally distance because we don't want to say the wrong thing. And not only we are doing this, but a lot of other people in that person's life is doing this. And because of that, sometimes people in great distress end up sort of alone because nobody wants to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So number one is be there. Number two is this is not the time for gratitude or positive reframing. We don't ever want to impose that on someone else who's really acutely grieving, like, well, at least ... Don't ever say that. We never want to say that because people will feel that as a minimizing of their is be there. And I think the image that I find really helpful is to imagine in our mind that we are literally walking beside them on a hike, for example. So we're not carrying them. We're not, because we can't. We're not trying to take their load away from them because we can't. But they are either walking that path alone or they're walking with people who love them beside them. And whatever hard path you're on, it's always better if there's somebody that you love and care about beside you. So we have no obligation, because we can't, to make it better. You can't make it better, but you can be there. And if you don't know what to say, you know what you can say? I don't know what to say, but I love you and I care for you and I'm here for you. That's it. You can say, I don't know what to say to you, but I love you. And that, in whatever words and vibe you can make that statement clear, that's really all you're trying to say. You're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to talk about it if they don't want to talk about it. You're just saying, I love you. I'm sorry. I'm here.